Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the ideas from a really thought-provoking book called Ask the Soul Doctor by Dr. Mark Pitstick. It jumps right into some of the biggest, toughest questions we all face, and it offers a totally different way to think about things like loss, death, and what might happen after.
So let's just start with the huge question, right at the heart of this book. For so many of us, losing someone we love, thinking about our own mortality, or just seeing all the suffering in the world, it can be completely overwhelming. This book asks us to just pause and consider a different possibility. What if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if death isn't a final stop, but just a change of address?
And the material we're digging into today definitely doesn't shy away from these huge anxieties. In fact, it walks right up to them. The core idea is that these deep, gut-level fears we have are often tied to a very specific, and maybe, just maybe, a very limited way of seeing the world.
This slide, man, this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? The fear of our own end, the pain of losing people, wondering if any of this suffering has a point, that feeling of being all alone. The book suggests that all of these fears really grow from one root idea, that life is just a random accident on a rock, and when it's over, it's just lights out. But what if that's not the whole story? So, if we're going to build a new foundation for how we see things, where do we start? Well, the book doesn't ask for blind faith, not at all. Instead, it points to what it calls the collective evidence, a whole mountain of data suggesting that our consciousness, who we really are, doesn't just flicker out when our body stops working.
What's really interesting is how this evidence is organized. It's not just a big jumble of ghost stories. It's a structured approach, almost like building a legal case, that's designed to appeal to both our logical minds and our hearts. It breaks everything down into three main categories.
So here are the three big buckets of evidence it draws from. You've got actual scientific research, like controlled lab experiments at universities. Then there are clinical studies, data gathered by doctors and psychologists from their patients. And finally, there's the massive, worldwide collection of first-hand experiences, deeply personal accounts that show up again and again all across the globe. The idea is that when you look at all three together, a pretty clear picture starts to emerge.
Okay, so a huge piece of this puzzle, especially on the clinical side, is the near-death experience, or NDE. These are stories from people who were, for all intents and purposes, dead, sometimes with no measurable brain activity at all, and yet they come back reporting these incredibly vivid, coherent, and often life-changing experiences. The book presents these accounts as powerful signs that our consciousness might just be able to exist without a working brain. So you take all this evidence, the scientific, the clinical, the personal, and what do you get? Well, it all starts building toward what the author calls the greater reality. It's a completely different model for understanding our lives and our place in the universe. And that new model presents us with a really stark choice. On one side, you have view number one. Life is random, it can be cruel, and it ends in nothing. On the other side, you have view number two. Your life here is part of an incredible journey with real purpose, and your physical death is just a tiny part of that story. The book's whole point is that which view you choose to live by changes, well, everything. Okay, get ready for this, because it's a wild idea. The book suggests that the physical part of you that dies, your body, is less than 1% of your total self. To help us grasp that, the author shares an analogy. If all the information in the universe were the size of Mount Everest, everything our five senses can perceive would be about the size of a single golf ball. And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophy. This new worldview comes with some really practical and frankly amazing implications, which the book calls the great news. Things like, you do continue on after death. You can still connect with the people you've lost. You have a purpose for being here. And this last one is huge. You actually have a hand in creating how heavenly or hellish your own life feels, right here and now. Okay, so that all sounds pretty good, right? But what does it actually do? How does adopting this greater reality perspective really change the way we handle the toughest stuff in life, like real loss and real suffering? Let's get into it. First up, it concretely redefines our whole idea of heaven. The book points out that in the original languages of ancient texts, heaven wasn't described as some physical place you go to later. It was described as a state of being, a state of mind, that you can actually tap into right now by focusing on higher vibration emotions like peace, joy, and love. And, you guessed it, the exact same logic applies to hell. It's not some fiery pit of eternal punishment handed down by a vengeful judge. It's presented as a self-created state of being. It's that awful, hellish feeling we put ourselves in when we get stuck in lower energy emotions like anger, fear, and resentment. So what about grief? This is a really important one. The book is crystal clear. Grieving is not a bad thing. It's a totally natural and even beautiful reflection of how much you love someone. The pain you feel is a measure of the love you have. But it also suggests that getting stuck in grief forever, in a way that denies that life and connection continue, well, that doesn't really help anyone in the long run.
Okay, now we get to something that might sound a little bit like science fiction, but it's presented as a serious, unfolding reality. The book suggests that our ability to connect with those who've passed on might not be limited to psychics and dreams forever. It proposes that technology might one day build that bridge for us.
And this isn't just a vague idea. It highlights the actual SoulPhone Project, a research initiative at the University of Arizona led by Dr. Gary Schwartz. This is a legitimate scientific effort to create devices that would allow for reliable, real-time communication with what they call Postmaterial Persons. The plan is to start simple, with yes or no answers, and eventually build up to texting and even voice calls.
So really, when you boil it all down, whether you're looking at the personal stories, the scientific data, or this futuristic technology, the core message is always the same. Connection is real, and it doesn't end. Love, as Helen Keller so beautifully put it, becomes a permanent part of us. It can't be lost.
And that really brings us to the final challenge the book leaves us with. It's not just a philosophical puzzle to think about, it's a question to live by. If you truly, deeply, in your bones, knew for a fact that life and love go on forever, how would that change things for you? How would it change the choices you make, the fears you hold, and the way you love, starting right now?